Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. When you have listened to and read the story, if you liked it, please leave a meaningful comment with your thoughts and feelings about it. If you would like to have a story from a specific genre, say a mystery, a thriller, a horror, or science fiction story, whichever, please leave a comment and let me know the type of thing you would like. Thank you. Short story 299, A Day in the Life of a London Commuter. Intermediate. It was a typical weekday morning in London. The city was bustling with activity as people rushed to their jobs, eager to start their day. Among them was Emma, a young professional who had been living in the city for the past 2 years. Emma's alarm clock blared at 6:30 a.m., jolting her awake. She groaned and reluctantly pulled herself out of bed, knowing that she had a long day ahead of her. As she made her way to the kitchen, she grabbed her phone and checked her email, scanning for any urgent messages from her boss. After a quick breakfast of toast and coffee, Emma hurried to the nearest underground station, joining the throngs of commuters already waiting on the platform. The train arrived moments later, and Emma squeezed her way onto the crowded carriage, holding onto a strap dangling from the ceiling. The journey was always the most stressful part of Emma's day. The train was packed, and the air was thick with the stale scent of sweat and stale coffee. Emma tried to distract herself by reading a book on her Kindle, but the constant jostling and the loud chatter made it difficult to focus. As the train pulled into the next station, more people crammed onto the carriage, and Emma found herself pressed up against the door, struggling to breathe. She glanced at her watch, hoping that the journey would be over soon. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the train arrived at Emma's stop. She stepped out onto the platform, grateful to be out of the claustrophobic carriage. However, her relief was short-lived as she realized that she still had a 10-minute walk to her office. Emma hurried through the crowded streets, dodging pedestrians and cyclists as she made her way to work. The city streets were a hive of activity, with cars honking their horns and people shouting at each other in the distance. When Emma finally reached her office building, she felt exhausted. She rode the elevator up to the 10th floor and made her way to her desk, where she was immediately bombarded with a stack of paperwork and a list of tasks that her boss had left for her. Throughout the day, Emma worked tirelessly, typing away on her computer, attending meetings and answering phone calls. She barely had time to take a break for lunch, scarfing down a sandwich at her desk while she continued to work. As the afternoon wore on, Emma's energy began to wane. Her eyes grew heavy, and she found it increasingly difficult to focus on the task at hand. She longed for the day to be over, so she could finally go home and relax. Finally, at 6:30 p.m., the workday came to an end. Emma gathered her belongings and hurried out of the office, joining the throngs of people rushing to catch the train home. The journey back was just as crowded and stressful as the one in the morning, but Emma was too tired to care. When she finally arrived at her apartment, Emma collapsed on the couch, kicking off her shoes and letting out a long sigh of relief. She turned on the TV and flipped through the channels, finally settling on a mindless reality show that she could watch without having to think too hard. As she sipped a glass of wine and unwound from the day's stresses, Emma couldn't help but wonder if this was the life she had envisioned for herself. But for now it was her reality, and she knew that she would have to find a way to cope with the daily grind of city life. Vocabulary notes: bustling. Definition: full of activity and movement. Example: the city was bustling with activity as people rushed to their jobs. Similar words: lively, thriving, vibrant. Commuter. Definition: a person who travels some distance to work on a regular basis. Example: Emma was a young professional who had been living in the city for the past 2 years and was among the throngs of commuters rushing to their jobs. Similar words: traveller, passenger, rider. Jolt. Definition: a sudden, abrupt movement or shock. Example: Emma's alarm clock blared at 6:30 a.m., jolting her awake. Similar words: jerk, bump, shock. Throngs. Definition: a large, crowded group of people. Example: Emma joined the throngs of commuters already waiting on the platform. Similar words: crowds, masses, multitudes. Carriage. Definition: the passenger compartment of a train. Example: Emma squeezed her way onto the crowded carriage, holding onto a strap dangling from the ceiling. Similar words: compartment, cabin, coach. Stale. Definition: no longer fresh or pleasant. Example: the air was thick with the stale scent of sweat and stale coffee. Similar words: musty, stuffy, rank. Claustrophobic. Definition: a feeling of discomfort or anxiety caused by being in a confined space. Example: Emma felt claustrophobic in the crowded carriage, struggling to breathe. Similar words: confined, cramped, stuffy. Hive of activity. Definition: a place that is very busy and active. Example: the city streets were a hive of activity, with cars honking their horns and people shouting at each other in the distance. Similar words: bustling, thriving, lively. Bombarded. Definition: to attack or overwhelm with a large number of things. Example: when Emma reached her desk, she was immediately bombarded with a stack of paperwork and a list of tasks that her boss had left for her. Similar words: assaulted, inundated, overwhelmed. Wane. Definition: to become gradually less strong, intense, or frequent. Example: as the afternoon wore on, Emma's energy began to wane, and she found it increasingly difficult to focus on the task at hand. Similar words: decline, diminish, fade. Scarfing. Eat very quickly and greedily. Example: scarfing down a sandwich at her desk while she continued to work. Similar words: scoffing, devouring, gobbling. Story written by onemin.ai and Steve UK. Image created by onemin.ai. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.